Hi, Amina. How are you?
Hi, Bella. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Welcome to the Blue Citron. But before we kick off, I'm going to just give a quick introduction of who you are. Of course, I'll allow you to do the rest yourself, but introducing you to our Blue Citron listeners. So, Amina Ali. This is a woman in energy, and not only is she in the energy space, but she's making an impact. So Amina Ali, I met her in Cape Town at a conference in 2021, November to be specific, at the Africa Energy Week conference. But prior to that, we had a couple of interactions as she was a pivotal member to the team that made the conference successful, actually. Now, Amina at the time was an international fellow at the Africa Energy Chamber. But right now, she is with Energy Africa. I'll leave her to explain all of that in detail. And she's a group manager at Energy Africa. Now, I caught up with Amina recently to get a better understanding of what her role is all about, a new role. And I couldn't help but invite her to share her inspiring experience with us as a woman in the energy space, of course, and how she's been touching lives in Africa and making an impact. Well, my name is Bimbola, and I'd like to welcome you to the Blue Citron podcast. So, Amina, tell us, why have you chosen this career path, to basically get into the energy space to start with?
Firstly, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you and to be on this platform. So, first of all, I basically have been following my purpose. So every role and whatever it is that I've been doing has always been, aligning. I've always wanted it to align to my purpose. And so at the time, from my career choice at the beginning to where I am now, has always been about helping people in some way or the other. And having worked with the UNHRC, we would help people, it's sort of like from a personal level. So you interact with them personally, you meet up with them, you see them, you help them, stuff like that. But, going out into the space of energy, I realized that we've come to, or I have arrived at the core part of where we can truly make a difference in a person's life. And of course, energy is so vital to our lives. I mean, just us having load shedding seems like it's literally the end of the world. But then you go into spaces and places where people don't even know what lights look like. They don't cook on an electrical stove or gas stove. They just live in such dire situations. When you think of how do they connect with the outside world, how do they make it? How are they living? How are they experiencing their lives on a daily? So I thought, when I got the opportunity to come in as a fellow, international energy fellow at the chamber, I thought, maybe this could be for me, or it isn't for me, but let's see how it goes. And the more I immersed myself in the space, I realized, I actually did find my niche. And this is, I think with all the other work that I've done, I was sort of like at level 3 of helping people, and now I'm literally at the foundation, which is 0.
Oh, wow.
And for me, I really want to work my way up and truly making a difference. Yeah.
And that's super important, you see, not just making a difference, but also, starting at the foundation level. As you say, initially you were at that top level, and then you realize to make probably significant impact, you have to start from the base. So it's really interesting. There's something you touched upon there, when you say some people don't even know what light is. And you and I, we are Africans, so we understand this. We have, if we don't have immediate families in the villages, we definitely have extended families, or long extended families in the villages. So, and we have been to the villages in our respective countries, so to speak, and we know what the challenges are, so to speak. So it's quite interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting.
And just adding on to what you just said now, I just had a realization that in December I was in one of the villages, and we were meant to get back to the hotel at like 5 p.m. because we had been out on work, whatever, and something happened, and so we kind of we weren't stuck there, but we just spent a longer time, and so obviously the sun set while we were there. So I'm like, oh wait, why are the lights not going on? And then they're like, no, but there is no lights here. And it hit me, as much as we laugh about it now, but it's such a reality, because I thought I was like, but why aren't the lights going on? Like, why is the government not? And I'm thinking, no, but actually this is the actual lives. They don't know any, they don't have street lights. Like the few houses where there were lights were in a distance, but it's always, maybe their children went out into the city and came back home and get, electricity for their families. But television and all these things is like a true luxury. So really, we have so much to be grateful for.
Yeah, indeed. And this is part of the Sustainable Development Goal 7, especially, which talks about ending energy poverty, energy accessibility for all. And you have actually now just recently seen this firsthand, where you're having to question yourself to say, but why is there no light? Why is there no electricity? Everywhere just seems dark. And you're right, we do take these things for granted. And I remember saying this recently at a webinar myself, saying that the things we take for granted in the West, or even in Africa, in the big cities, is a huge challenge in the villages. And this is not just in Africa. You find this in other developing continents as well. You find it in developing Asia, for example. So there are places that have this, lots of these challenges. But what you're also doing at Energy includes empowering, the local people in the villages, giving them access to stoves or something. Can you give me a little bit insight into that? Because I'm just really blown away by the impact it is that you guys are doing, and yourself in particular. So maybe you can shed a little bit of light on that.
Yeah, so what we do at Energy Africa is basically distributes cook stoves for free to the underprivileged. And how this works is that we manufacture the cook stoves. So we manufacture parts of the cook stoves, and then we go out into the rural areas, the villages, and we build the stove in the hut, or wherever they cook their meals. And the whole idea behind this is to basically combat deforestation. So if when women go out into the field, first of all, it's lengthy. You go out for the whole day, just going to collect firewood. When you do come back, when you do light the firewood, just the CO2 emissions, the smoke that clogs up your eyes, your nose, your throat, all of that. And in the long run, this is detrimental to their health, because you inhale all of this smoke all the time, on a daily, and for a long time, because you have to cook one pot at a time. So you cook one pot at a time, and also that one pot alone is emitting so much of smoke, and you have no choice but to keep going, because the caregiving of a family in an African perspective is by the woman. So the woman has to make sure that she cooks, she fetches the firewood, she comes back, makes the meal, does everything, and baths the kid, collects water to bath the children, and. So with that being said, the main role, so the whole idea behind that is to, reduce the amount of trees, even though there has been a huge amount of trees that have been already cut. And the problem with people who are cutting down the trees, that they cut the trees from the root. And once you pick the root from the soil, it doesn't grow back. Yeah. But apart from growing back, it removes the nutrients from the soil. So meaning over time, the area around you will probably have famine. And if it's not famine, it is prone to natural disasters. So this is all, just impact, negative impact and negative impact and negative impact. But then again, from where I stand, as much as, yes, deforestation is bad, I also do understand why women and our people do it, because as a mother, you would do anything for your child. You do anything to feed. And there is no way I'm going to listen to someone who is sitting in a mansion in California telling me climate change, when my kids are hungry. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the whole idea is, what we have done is when we build these stoves, and of course there'll be pictures that you will put up just to demonstrate what the stoves look like. And unfortunately, the lighting is not good for these spaces, because again, we're going into areas where there's no electricity, and it's usually in huts. So, the pictures will be dark, but anyway, so when we do build them, it's a stove and a stove. So we've kind of made it, a 2-plate stove, so that when you're making, you can always, I don't know what it is in Nigeria, but we have meal pap, and this is not the southern part of Africa. In Swahili, it's called nsima. So we have being cooked here, and then we have relish, which is, the vegetable or the chicken, being cooked on the other part. So we have like this in between, where the way the stoves are made is that you don't need firewood, you're just going to use a branch. So you take the branch, you can actually use the branch for a week. So you're now saving time, and you won't have to go out into the village, not the village, the forest, to go and collect firewood every day, so to say. And also the branch will burn quicker. There's less CO2 being emitted, because we have this thing that kind of holds it together. And the way the pot sits on the thing, and the way the amount of oxygen that comes out is limited as well. So all around, just in its totality, it works out brilliantly. And although it's not the best solution, it is a form of solution. I think that's what the problem is. We always complain about something, but we don't give people an alternative to it. So yes, we complain about deforestation, but what are you doing? Why don't you give people trees to rebuild? Why aren't you coming and building the trees? Why aren't you, if you're going to complain about something? So we have decided that this is our way of giving back, and we do hope that it will be beneficial to the people that we've helped and for other generations to come, even though we do hope to.
No, this is amazing. And I was actually going to ask what powers the stoves, basically, if it was going to be a use of kerosene or of wood, but you did mention branches, so that was, I was going to get there. So thank you. That's really nice. So how many countries have you been to supply these stoves to these women in the villages? To all due respect to anyone watching this, to the men especially, it's not like we don't like you men, we love you, but we all know that it's the women in the rural areas, they're the ones that make things
do the cooking. Because patriarchy is very much alive in the village, just saying. But also, just before I go ahead and mention countries, we also do have different stoves that we've also been developing. So we've used pellets. We've taken like small pieces of wood, which we have. So our stove is called Imimoto. And I'll also send you pictures, which you'll put up, as I speak. But this stove as well, we use pellets that you throw into like the bottom part, and as you're burning that, the stove, so then it's firewood, but not to that extent. And also it will last you very long. However, this is not focused on the village, because we sell these stoves, mainly because this is not focused on, in South Africa, we have townships, just the peri-urban areas. So it's between living in the city and living in the village, those that work in the city but are from the village. So they can kind of afford, to buy a stove. So we have those kind of stoves, and we're looking at also, pushing that into the market in the short term now as our short-term plans. However, the countries that we have been focusing on, I think, this applies on across the spectrum. The charity begins at home. So we are looking at first, supplying it to the SADC countries, which is the Southern African Democratic countries. So which would then be so it would be South Africa, Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Kenya, Uganda, Angola, Burundi, Rwanda, Tanzania. Namibia, not yet. So Namibia is part of our plans. So we just need to then do this part because we've done this part of the continent, and now we just have to complete this part, and then we've covered everything. Okay. Yeah, so it will be Namibia, Botswana, and then we've done everything.
You've been to all those countries?
So that's where we are already working in.
Oh, I see.
And that's where our work is happening already. But me, myself, yes, I have traveled to those countries, just not on this job. Yes,
right, so. Okay. So I was going to ask how many, villages per country it is that you guys have been to, that you have been to already with this supplying of stoves, and so and how I mean, I'm trying to frame the question in such a way that, let me put it this way: so how many villages and how many families are impacted? That may be a lot of numbers, I guess. I don't know.
So in Malawi, we've impacted already 1 million.
1 million families.
Yes. So we've distributed 1 million stoves, which would then be 500,000 families, because you divide it by 2, because we put two stoves in one household.
Okay.
Yeah. So it should be 500,000 families, but I do stand to be corrected. But we have manufactured 1 million stoves in Malawi, because that was where we had the factory. But now we have moved the factory to Cape Town, so we will be producing. Production will be happening in Cape Town, but also in Malawi. So the two countries will be manufacturing, and then we'll have warehouses in all the different countries, so that as we manufacture, you feed it into the different warehouses, and then those warehouses go out into the different villages. So yes, coming to your question about the village, it all depends on how many field coordinators we have. So the structure is that you'll have the country manager, and then you'll have, the field coordinators. So the field coordinators are the ones who go out into the different villages. And then they are the ones who would then speak to the chief out of respect, because you can't just go in and just do work. So we first speak to the chief, and then if the chief allows that, yes, you can come in, and then we go out. And usually we would start at the chief's house, and then we'd go out into the rest of the village. And then what happens is, as we're giving out the stove, we have them registered. So we also have our own online platform called Focus, and we register the stoves. So we can tell where each of our stoves are bought, because we even give the people QR cards, and we can tell where each and every stove is, and we can see, so we can pinpoint that, and you must remember that this is a village. So network is not really stable and stuff in these places, but we have coverage in such a way that I can tell you that in Zambia, in Chipata, we have this many stoves at this specific area, the specific village, and at this house and that house, and they are using it and they're not using it, and so forth. So it really depends on, I think, as much as we don't have a specific we don't plan it out in advance in terms of where we're going to be working in terms of the village. However, if you hire me, right, I would go back to my village and first help my people. So usually that's how it works in field coordinators as well. They'll always be like, oh, let me actually first start with my village. Again, charity begins at home. So that's what I also realized, that there's still so many good people in the world, because when I posted about the work that we're doing on LinkedIn, I had my inbox my messages were flooding with everyone just asking me, hey, listen, I'm willing to help you for free. Can we take this back to my village? and you'll find that this person is living in London, the other person is living in California, the one person is living in Houston, but they're all like, no, listen, please, let's take it back home. I want to also help my people. And I thought, that's the reality of all of us as Africans, just like you mentioned at the beginning, that even if we don't live in villages or our parents don't, but someone along in our family does or have, or, and we all know someone who does. So also for people to still be reaching out and being like, hey, listen, I still want to help people myself. I think it's so heartwarming.
That is amazing. That's amazing. And I think what you're doing, you and your team, your company, I think you're doing something really great, because right now there's a lot of conversation about, climate change, obviously, energy transition, and this is one way of even combating energy poverty, because energy poverty is really, really broad. I had a conversation. I've been having conversations actually about this, and energy poverty is not a new topic. It's something that has been on the pipeline for a couple of years now, because when you look at that NASA map, and you just see everywhere else is like bright, and then you just look at Africa and it's like dark, and you're just wondering, okay, is this the reality of things, or is this been made up? But, so this is one way, because if there's no light, there's nothing, and obviously if women in the villages are struggling to feed, then there's a problem. And you talked about, the whole how deforestation even happens, and rather than that's happening, because it is a ripple effect, you're right. Because once the tree is cut from the root, it's not just going to affect that immediate surrounding, it starts to multiply because of the nutrition that is meant to, go around within the soil itself to affect, or impact the next and the next and the next, parcel or piece of land where trees, and basically the land has to be arable and to be good, for trees to grow, or even to till a soil and to plant anything in there. So basically and we want to guard against famine and all this situation. And Africa is really blessed with a lot of things, and we don't want deforestation to happen. So what you guys are doing to counter that effect by also, providing stoves to women in the villages. It's almost like a thankless, job, one that one can't even thank, you guys enough. And you're right. I saw that post and I was like, oh my God. And also the ones that when I asked you, I was like, what is energy? For the benefit of those listening, is ENER-G-Africa. Just look out for Amina Ali. So Amina Ali is who I know. The energy company they've not reached out to me, so this is not a promotion for them, but Amina Ali is she's making things happen, as far as I know, and so we're really thankful for that. So I was gonna ask you about the skills you've acquired to help you do what you're doing. Is this just innate for you as well to be able to let me put it that way. When you work sometimes with Western companies, and you're African, you're expected to know everything about Africa. Let's just put it that way. So whether you have the skill or not, you're just expected to. Or even not a Western company, you could work for anyone else but an African company, so you're expected to know every single thing. But then if I take a step back, it's more also a case of how have you been able to approach all these people that you're going to, as you say, the chiefs, the villages. You have to have a skill. Not everyone can do that, and I hear you, I agree with you. Any village in Africa, or maybe Sub Saharan Africa, you better talk to the chief, because if you don't talk to the chief first, you're not going to achieve anything. And hopefully the chief, they do right by their people, because that's not always the case. Let's just be honest. But So what are the skills that has helped you to grow, to be able to achieve, your results, basically?
Okay, so I don't think it's been, I don't know how to put it, but I think different stages of my life has I've had different skills at my different stages that have required me to get to the next step and the next step and the next step. And as the one skill, developed, the other one died out, and sort of kind of. So apart from, I would say that my people skill, my interpersonal skill is one thing that has been with me all along. And I think that is very beneficial in terms of where I currently am right now. But how I got here, I think it takes a lot of different things, like, piecing a lot of different things together. And I think, when people ask me, like even my age mates, they're like, but how did you just maneuver everything, And I think it's about searching, like, you searching what it is that you are looking for. And I remember I had a call with one of my friends, and we were just talking about how, because she was like to me, are you sure you're the age that you are, And then I was like, no, well, I am this age, but, what are you trying to say? She's like, no, sometimes I learn more from you than you learn from me, And I think what I am grateful for is that I've had a soul that was really thirsty for knowledge, and I actively went out to look for those, like for what it is that I wanted to know. So as much as it's like, I think as Africans, we always assume that our parents should tell us everything. Or I think this is in general with everyone else. You just assume for everyone to tell you anything. But what we don't realize is that only when you ask is when you're actually told. I wouldn't just come and tell you that, hey, donkeys walk slow. Sometimes when we're passing donkeys and you're like, oh, they're walking slow. And I'm like, yeah, actually donkeys are slower than horses, and horses are quite quick. Do you catch my drift? So it's when you seek that you find. And I think The Alchemist is what described this so beautifully. Like, when you went out into, searching for these things. And in all of that, I found different and I attained different skills that have been like stepping stones to where I currently am right now. But above all things, I think my skill to connect with God, because I don't think I would have gotten to where I am. I think everything that I do has the grace of God upon it, so it comes with ease. That's why even I think, as you say, like, me being even in the space that I'm in, it has some kind of grace upon it. But that again, you have to build that skill. And I read a lot, extensively so, again, that's searching for knowledge. It doesn't just come to you. You have to go out there, read bits of pieces. That's why even on my LinkedIn, I've followed people who are in the media, who draw cartoons, to people who work for Facebook, and people who, build electric cars, so it kind of gives me an understanding of different worlds and why people think the way that they think and where their understanding and their reasoning comes from. So so that's basically one of how I would best answer your question. I hope I've answered it to the best of my ability.
You have. You have. That's really good, because there's nothing as good as learning, because that's how you know more. And go out there, seek for knowledge. And I hear you. A lot of us humans, maybe not a lot of us, but some people just prefer to be told, and we're all different, and I respect that. Some people prefer to be told, and some people prefer to go out there and seek. So thank you for sharing that. I totally am one of those that definitely loves to go out there and just seek for knowledge, because there's so much to find, there's so much to know.
Literally.
And it opens your mind,
Exactly. So, when they say that we're students of life, so it's
totally.
There's always something that you learn.
There's no end to learning.
And I'd just like to also share another experience. Recently in Maputo, we went to Maputo, and we were in a village called Marakwena. I'm not sure how to pronounce it because it's in Portuguese. But, what was so amazing is that we stopped by at this village, and we were just looking. We didn't have a village in mind. We just like, let's take a drive, and we're going to stop at the village and just going to ask them, what their life is like in terms of, the energy and all of that. And we got there and we saw, little solar panels and different, little huts and stuff, to show that, and it's sad because it's the Chinese. Well, it's not sad, but I mean, it's sad in terms of from an African perspective that we don't create our own things, They're all Chinese solar panels, but then our people don't really understand how to do it because, again, the manual would be in Chinese. As much as it's in English, they can't really read it, so it doesn't really accommodate them again. And what they are told is a bit, they don't fully understand it because it's not their language, So there's a lot of things that we don't really take into perspective, and that's why we also at the company at Energy Africa, we're also looking to manufacture solar panels.
That's good. Okay. Wow.
To do that, and also but the solar panels will actually be sold to the different, basically across the continent. However, again, getting back to the story. So what the experience that I had was so life-changing. We got to this village and we met this man. We found this old man just sitting under a tree. I don't know. Have you ever went to the village during the day? They're just always relaxing.
It's very relaxing. Yeah. Yeah, I have been to as a child mostly, to see my.
When you go there out of the blue
town, but yeah, it's very good, very relaxing. Life is easy. It's very clean.
It's very clean.
That's the interesting part. People do think, oh my God. No, it's actually, well, at least the ones I've been to, very, very clean. And you just see fruits everywhere, the trees of guava trees, almond trees, and all sorts. Yeah. It is very relaxing.
And you know what's funny? When they call us in the city, they're like, "Oh, we're struggling. We're not doing well." And
those people are not struggling, I tell you.
Those people are not struggling. When you go there, you're like, "This is not struggle." If anything, this is your best life. This is the best life to live. But so we went there, and this man was so welcoming. He got up immediately. You can see he's an old man. He got up immediately, went into his little house and brought out chairs, so we could sit on. And he's like, and he doesn't first ask us what we're there for. He's first makes us sit, welcomes us. Do you need anything? And then once you sat down, and it's like, so what are you here for? And I thought, just that, like, it was so, so we sat down, and for me, I love mangoes. I am the biggest. Listen, I'm going to plant a mango tree. I'm going to plant an apple tree.
Do that.
And I got there and I'm looking up and I'm seeing every single fruit that you can think of. And in Mozambique, they grow cashew nuts. So there's a cashew nut tree. There is trees that I've never heard of. Apparently there's a fruit called a masala. I've never heard of it. There's amarula. There's everything. And he's like, so we're just telling him about, the whole project and how it works and all of that, and he's like, I'm such a poor man, so you must really come help me. And I'm like, no, you are the rich man. You are the rich man. But, it's just, it takes me back to the point that, the government doesn't really care about people in the village. And that's where the problem is. And that's the reason why there isn't energy, why there isn't electricity. Because they don't care about them. Because, but then they only care about them when it's time to vote, because they will come and get your vote and you'll be counted in. But apart from that, they don't care about building roads there. It's just about the city and impressing everyone in the city, and that's that. And we asked him like what the distance is to get to Maputo, the Maputo city, and he was saying that it's quite a distance to get there. But again, it's I think the blame all goes back to the government. Because if they wanted to, they would. It's always that thing. If you wanted to, you would. It's really heartbreaking that I had never seen a it's called a lantern. A lantern, where you put like paraffin and then it burns. Like he actually has that. That's what he uses. Yep. And we are in 2022.
There's a lot of that in Nigeria. A lot.
Word. Like I had never seen that in my life. So I was like, Oh my word, you know,
Yeah.
but this is reality. And the thing is, our politicians don't have time to be going to the rural areas and you know, seeing the disparity that people are living in.
But they
And
should
that's
have
where
time. They should have time because there are local government chairman or whatever, or district chairman or district leader, whatever. There are people responsible for those villages that report to the federal government, basically. If I use Nigeria as an example, so they are. So they're meant to have time. And you're right, when it's time for voting elections, then they remember the villages. Yeah, government, yeah. But definitely we're going to talk about how, you know, solutions and all of that for, you know, from the governmental side. We'll definitely talk about that on another time, because what you are already providing is a solution, is solving problems for these people. And it is such a shame, you know, and we're all trying to, you know, I mean, the conference, as you remember, was all about ending energy poverty by 2030. This was in November 2021. Right now, we're in February 2022. That's 8 years to come, you know?
Yeah.
Is it possible? I don't think so. It's very ambitious, but maybe at least it's been talked about, and it's not just been talked about, we can see action. And one of those actions is the little that you guys are doing. Yeah, because it's all, I mean, every little helps, you know, every drop, you know, makes an ocean, don't they say, you know? So that's just, you know, something impactful that you guys are doing for sure. And yeah, I mean, this is a very broad topic, and we'll definitely talk more about it. I had a chat with Tare Kadzura, who's another energy specialist. He resides in Johannesburg, and I think he works for one of the majors, the oil and gas majors, who's now looking to, obviously they're getting into the renewable sides as well. And he said a lot of interesting things as well around, you know, consumption of everything is in Africa and will continue to be in Africa for a very long time. So we need to attack this energy poverty situation. You know, the youth, Africa has the youngest population. The average age of Africa is 18 to 19. That's the average age. That is the average age. Lagos alone, on paper, if you look at some statistics, World Bank, UN statistics, whatever, if it falls around 15, 16 million people. To be honest, Lagos is actually like 25, nearing 30 right now. Really. Now imagine that, and imagine by 2050, Lagos will be nearing 50 million. That is Lagos. That's just one city. That is just one city in Nigeria, and then one city in Africa. So basically the population is growing. Energy poverty has to be tackled right now. Economic growth is inevitable. It has to happen with tackling of energy poverty. And, you know, we need to empower people to just live, you know, just have the necessary, should I say, basic necessities of life. Water shouldn't be a problem. Turning on, you know, your switch shouldn't be a problem. I mean, this is why one of the things that you said, because I was very interested when you mentioned that you guys are going to be manufacturing, you know, solar panels. So that's really, really good. But you know what? It is such a broad topic. I think I need to get you and Tare here together and have this conversation. I think that needs to happen. But
I'm keen.
One thing I want to ask you is, you're an African woman, and I'm enjoying what you're doing. So what are you going to advise for the young African ladies, the ones living university now? What are you going to advise them to look out for? Not necessarily energy. I mean, everyone, there's space for anyone and everyone. Something tells me you're going to tell them to keep learning.
Well, let's try. Okay, now that you said that, let me try and work my way around not saying that. So I think, you know, a lot of people, I have been asked this quite a lot. I think with most of the people that I speak to, they always ask me, so what would you tell, you know, the younger people, or my younger self rather, you know? And for me, I don't think that there's any set, you know, there is no blueprint to anything. I, for starters, have never been in the energy space, or rather, I have been like now for a year, but I haven't been here for the longest of time. You know, and it's okay to to look around, just trying to find where you belong. That's one thing. And mainly because and energy is not only for people who study energy. Energy is for everyone, because at the end of the day, a doctor will put on the lights, a teacher will put on the lights, a firefighter will put on the lights, a president will put on the lights, a finance and accountant. You understand? So energy should have everyone in it. You know, I think we need people from finance coming into it, so they can tell us how should we best monetize, how should we best, take this on. And I think the problem that we have right now is that we're leaving such an important topic or situation that we find ourselves in politicians' hands. And usually, if you look at the structure of how politics is made up of, is that they will take, if it's time for a cabinet restructuring, they will take someone who's in finance and put them in energy, take someone who is in energy and put them in transport. And you're like, are these people even learned to be in this situation? So maybe what we also need to do is start putting people who actually understand energy in the energy, who lead us in the energy space, and everyone else is going to drive the force, be coming from every direction, from every angle, from every background, from every atmosphere, from every different languages. Maybe we need to understand energy in Portuguese. Maybe we need to understand energy in Igbo. Understand? It's like, we need people from every background to come in. And like how we say, making energy poverty history, but the main thing is to not leave anyone behind.
Absolutely.
So what I would tell younger people is to basically, what you should do, focus on finding your purpose. And from there, that is the most important part, because that will guide you and lead you to anywhere that you want to go. What you're going to read from there is going to be based on your purpose, what you're going to look for in life, the places you're going to go to in life, everything that you're going to do, how you're going to take on life will always be aligned to your purpose once you know what it is. I think it's like how, it's about working from end to beginning and not from the beginning to the end. And, there was something that I read which really just, really sparked my mind, which said, maybe God actually created us from the end to the beginning and not from the beginning to the end. So, we tend to think that Adam was from the beginning, which is Genesis, and we're working our way up to, but maybe we're actually at the end and coming back to the beginning. Maybe, and if you come to think of it, that we actually coming from the beginning of our life to the end of we say that we start from the beginning of our life to the end of our life, or maybe we're actually going from the end of our life to the beginning of our lives.
Yeah. And it's a full circle.
Yeah, so really find your purpose. Find your purpose and work your way backwards. That's where it is. So the purpose is your end, because I know that my purpose has always been to help people. I want to serve people. I want to be of service to people. Like how God is of service to mankind, and so I want to be part of the the mankind serving serving the rest of humankind. So working my way from the end to the beginning. And I think if you can figure that out, I think you have pretty much everything sorted out.
Everything covered.
Doing in life will always be aligned to serving. So
Wow. Honestly, did
I mention reading?
No, you didn't.
Well, I can add it in. I can say that you need to read to find your purpose, but I'm just joking. You will know. Let's leave that part out.
Oh my days. So what are you, what are you going to, obviously what you're going to advise, what you're going to, you've advised us on what you want your younger self and your young people, to do, finding your purpose and, possibly looking at what is the end. And then from there, going back to the beginning. So it's not all young people that probably watch this podcast, so we have everyone, every age, every, different types of people, age, race, creed, whatever. So what would you advise our listeners, like a parting advice for them, literally?
I don't know. I think I will leave people with one of the best quotes that I've ever heard, which says that even if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it'll be enough.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's very profound. I wasn't expecting that, but you're right. Thank you for that. Because I just like you, I do travel a lot, and one thing that I like to learn before I go to a new country or a country where I know I don't speak the language is how to say hello and thank you. And I just do those two things so that when I get there, then I can actually, say it. Some of them I've forgotten. I remember my first time in Croatia. Before going, I asked my colleague, she's left us now. I asked her, how do you say hello and thank you? Violetta, these are the two things I need to know. I did that when I was going to Portugal. That I still remember for Portugal because I use that for Angola and Mozambique, and that's obrigada. If you're a female,
yes,
say it to
female, yes.
Yeah.
You definitely learned it.
Obrigado, and all those things. Gracia, gracia, and all that. And of course, in my own language, because I'm Yoruba, so it's eshe. So I say that to people as well. Eshe gon, oshe, depending, and different languages as well, Norwegian based on, my life in Norway as well. That's tak or tusen tak or manga tak or whatever, so yeah. You're right. That is actually very profound. So thank you. And on that note, thank you so much, Amina. There's so much to learn from you. Oh my God. And thank you for what you're doing. Thank you so much for what you're doing, yourself and your team at Energy. And yes, you can tell them to give me a call because I've literally, literally sold them to the world. But it's, of course, it's you that we know. And thank you for impacting lives, in the villages in Africa. Obviously, and I know, as we say, we have extended people, extended families, and it's quite interesting in 2022. There's still no simple electricity access in some villages. Some villages, yes, things are there now, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So, and Africa is huge and it's even getting bigger population-wise. The land mass is there as well. But, the most important thing is, like I always say, education, learning, because once you educate yourself, once you learn, you're able to then do better. You're able to impact other people. You're able to provide not just for yourself, but for your extended, families. Everybody is able to provide something and everyone is able to build and then grow together. So education is a very, very big deal and a very big thing to me. And that is, what you guys are also doing. It's not just providing the stoves, but it's also educating them, not just on how to use it, but how to be able to do better. So they're not essentially causing deforestation with their own hands, which then, basically ripples into, famine and other, natural disasters that, occur from these issues. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Really, really appreciate it. Well, a big thanks to our listeners as well. And until next time, it's Beam from Blue Citron, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you and goodbye.